the Irish guy, and Rasmus Hojland, the Atalanta goal machine, a world superstar. Apparently, despite having a name that sounds like it belongs in Hufflepuff, apparently this guy is going to Manchester United for a minimum of £60 million. If I'm a Manchester United fan, then I'm nervous that Man United are only buying this bloke because his name sounds like Haaland. And guess what? He's also from Scandinavia. It's like they're still devastated they didn't try harder to buy him when Ollie was in charge. Right, but the more you think about it, is it incredible they never signed this guy? Lads, how many elite clubs in world football just happen to have a former molded manager at the wheel? The entire Ollie experiment was a complete clown show joke the entire time, and nobody was laughing. Except the Liverpool fans. I mean, replacing Jose Mourinho with a guy managing a Norwegian league. But if his presence in the dugout at Old Trafford meant that Manchester United were now able to tie up a deal for a future multiple Ballon d'Or winner simply because Ollie used to be his coach, this whole appointment would have looked like 4D chess. Because back in late 2019, Haaland's previous first team coaches in his career were just Jesse Marsch, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Gaute Larsen, and Erling Moe. The absolute odds on one of those meatloaf managers actually being in charge at a club like Manchester United. I'm not entirely sure how Man United didn't sign Haaland in 2019. Surely they'd have had Ollie texting him to the point of nearly breaking his phone. Surely Ollie would have been doing everything in his power to convince his former player to move to Old Trafford. To an extent where he's probably considering whether or not to send a cheeky nude in the bath. But you didn't sign him. Your plan B was to target a different Norwegian striker, Josh King, who you still weren't able to buy, and so you chose to sign a different centre forward who'd played in Norway before, Odion Ighalo, just 2020's version of Wout Weghorst, someone who also looked like he'd won his Manchester United contract in a packet of crisps. Honestly, Ighalo used to play for Lille in Norway. Haaland probably used to watch him as a child, so I get that the club is probably still devastated about Haaland, because the one that got away has now just scored 52 goals in 53 games in his debut season for their noisy neighbour City rivals, as they've just lifted the treble, including beating Man United in the FA Cup final. There's rubbing it in, and then there's that. It's been like being too scared and nervous to ask out a girl at school, and then 5 years down the line, and she's now married to your brother. I mean, you invite them over for movie night, and she literally just gives birth to triplets on the floor. But choosing to now sign Hojland just because of the similarities, it's almost a little creepy. He is not Haaland. It smacks of a club who won't let go. It's when Fulham said goodbye to their beloved midfielder John Collins, and so went out there and bought someone called Collins John. Haaland is 6'4". Hojland is 6'3". They're both blonde, Scandinavian, and weirdly, both have played in Austria too. I bet they also eat the same brand of cereal. They probably both have mums who wear the same clothes. It's like the sport has tried to already clone another Haaland. Look at their goal scoring records at international level. Haaland has bagged 24 goals in 25 games for Norway. That's an average of 0.96 goals a game. But Hojland, his average is 1 goal a game. 6 in 6 for Denmark. To be fair, those goals were against Finland, Slovenia, and Kazakhstan. The Danes actually lost to Kazakhstan too after being 2-0 up with 20 minutes left. So I'd imagine this young man probably celebrated his brace by, I don't know, wiping his tears with his mummy's underpants. Lads, what do I think about this transfer? It reminds me of 2 transfers in Manchester United's recent history. One is good news, one is bad news. Which one do you want first? The good news or the bad news? Or do you want option 3 where I just stop talking and instead spend the next few minutes just shaving my armpits and licking toothpaste off a dead mouse? The good news is that this deal reminds me of Chicharito. I mean, nobody really had a clue who he was before Man United snapped him up for 20 million in 2010. He wasn't some raw teenage little boy. No, he was a fully grown 22-year-old man and only really had 1 real season under his belt. 21 goals in 28 games in the Mexican League for Guadalajara. But before that, just 8 goals in over 50 matches, which is a bit similar to Hojland, who has 9 goals for Atalanta. He was outscored by his own teammate Tijun Koop Miners, who plays defensive midfield. So with Chicharito, people would have been well within their rights to think that Fergie choosing to sign this man was a bit like seeing your senile granddad suddenly decide to eat the family dog. Yeah, maybe it's time to stick him in a home. But no, Javi Hernandez scored 20 goals in his debut season at Old Trafford, then 12 the following season and 18 after that, and went on to play for Real Madrid. He was like a 2010 Hojland, and he turned out great. But here's the bad example. Man United paid £36 million for a teenage Anthony Martial, who just had a 9-goal season in the French league with Monaco. 9 goals! That's exactly what Hojland scored last season. Wayne Rooney didn't even know who he was. It's funny, this is like the Haaland-Hojland thing just in reverse. Because Manchester United had the right idea, but they just went a bit too early. Martial was the pre-Mbappe. That's why Monaco were probably happy to sell Martial, because they knew they had a future world champion in the Monaco B team. Weirdly, just 2 years before Man United bought Martial, Mbappe was playing for Chelsea against Charlton under 14s. But yeah, it's like Man United could smell out a world-class talent at Monaco, but got the wrong one. Because I'm sure when Man United went to France for negotiations, Monaco probably shoved Mbappe in a cupboard under the stairs. For one afternoon, he was probably the French Harry Potter. Listen, Martial had his good Chicharito seasons too. 17 goals in his debut season. He bagged in 23 goals in his 5th season. That was great, but overall he's been a waste. He has had 5 seasons where he has failed to score double digits in the Premier League. 3 of those seasons he scored 4 goals or less. Face it, Martial been paid a monster £250,000 weekly wage for a guy who has scored 11 Premier League goals since July 2020. He's been a fat, massive flop. Signing an unknown Hojland is a risk. Manchester United have a habit of going too early. I'm gonna reel off some stats which will blow your feeble little mind. How often is it that Manchester United buy a footballer from a club, only for that same club to then replace that sold player with an even better one? A secret weapon up their sleeve, especially the much smaller teams. You would think that Man United depriving them of their best player, oh, that would just be game over. They would never find a replacement anywhere near as good. But now, what does it tell you about the Manchester United scouts that these smaller teams always almost immediately replace these big money Old Trafford bound superstars with better players? Like, Man United signed Harry Maguire for £80 million. Yeah, Leicester soon replace him with Wesley Fofana, who's going to be a Chelsea superstar. Ajax had Donny van de Beek ripped out of their hands. No matter, up steps Edson Alvarez is now linked with Bayern Munich. Even when Manchester United put £60 million in Sporting Lisbon's pocket for Bruno Fernandes, they then sign a Wolves reject in Pedro Goncalves and get him to put up similar numbers, scoring 20 from midfield every single year. I mean, Villarreal sold Eric Bailly for £30 million. Oh, don't worry, because they had a young Pau Torres, who was a far better centre-back. Borussia Dortmund sell Henrik Mkhitaryan. They replace him with Jadon Sancho. Even Dortmund selling Sancho to Man United for massive money. I wouldn't be surprised if Jamie Bino Gittins, an 18-year-old winger playing in the academies of Chelsea and Man City, would not be surprised if in 5 years' time he's worth £100 million. I mean, Man United paid big money for Victor Lindelof. Benfica laughed all the way to the bank and just replaced him with Ruben Diaz. I mean, Atletico Madrid lost world superstar David De Gea. Well, they just went out there and got Thibaut Courtois, future Champions League winner, and who'd one day finish 7th in the Ballon d'Or. De Gea's highest ever ranking was 20th? Aston Villa lose their absolute talisman and left wing wizard Ashley Young, and I say this through gritted teeth, but they replaced him with an academy child who'd grow up to cost £100 million and win the treble. Borussia Dortmund replaced Shinji Kagawa with Marco Reus. I mean, come on, even tiny little crew Alexandra replaced Nick Powell with one of the Pogbas. I mean, Man United thought they were signing a wonder kid from Brazil in 2008, snapping up Rodrigo Possebon from Internacional. Yeah, that little Brazilian club just dusted themselves down and replaced them with Oscar, a future £60 million star who'd grow up to win the Premier League and score in the semi-final of the World Cup. I mean, I know they lost 7-1, but still, even going back into the past, Tottenham cashed in on Michael Carrick and soon bought Luka Modric. And Harry Kane sprouted up just a few years after the Berbatov sale. Lads, this is the biggest joke. Man United thought they were signing Brazil's next huge midfield superstar when they bought Kleberson from Atletico Paranense in 2003. Yeah, you know who replaced him in the Atletico midfield? Fernandinho. You know, the future Man City legend? It's ridiculous. Man United went shopping in Independiente in Argentina and came back with Diego Forlan. I mean, great player, but flopped. Do you know who directly replaced Forlan in the Independiente starting 11 that summer? A 15-year-old Sergio Aguero. Another future City legend, lads. Aguero replaced Forlan 20 years ago. That blows my mind. I mean, Nantes sold Eric Djemba to Old Trafford. They went and replaced him with Jeremy Toulalan. You know, nearly 40 France caps, while Djemba grew up to play for Burnley, Qatar and St Mirren. I mean, Man United bought world champion centre-back Laurent Blanc from Inter Milan. Yeah, the Italians then replaced him with Fabio Cannavaro, who eventually wins both the World Cup and the Ballon d'Or. Even when Man United bought goal machine superstar Andy Cole from Newcastle, the Magpies then go out and shatter a world transfer record for Alan Shearer. This happens over and over and over again. Man United always move one too late. So I just know Hoyland will wind up at Old Trafford, and within 2 years, Atalanta will be selling his replacement to Real Madrid. I am excited to see who replaces Hoyland in Serie A, because you just know it's going to be somebody unbelievably class. But lads, name me one Atalanta goal machine who has gone on to do big things at their next club. Come on, I'll wait. I will gladly sit on the floor for half an hour, chewing my shoelaces and sword fighting with mice, while you rummage through the internet to find me an answer. And see, right now, you're probably about as helpless as a deaf person on the chase, just blankly staring at the beast, wondering if he's gonna put him in a pie. The truth is that Atalanta's best goal scorers never really amount to much. I mean, last season, it was Ademola Lookman, you know, formerly of Charlton, Everton, Fulham and Leicester City, someone who, in the Premier League, was about as exciting as a vegan cheeseburger. I bet it just tastes like licking broccoli off a cow. Weirdly, the guys who've recently been top scorers for Atalanta have always been in their late 20s, early 30s, winding down their careers like Luis Muriel, Joseph Ilicic, Duvan Zapata, German Dennis. But my point is that Atalanta goal machines never really graduate from the club to go on and become elite ballers at bigger clubs. It doesn't really happen. I mean, the last one was Pippo Inzaghi, who scored 25 goals in his only season at the club, and then became a Juventus and AC Milan legend, winning 3 Serie A's, 2 Champions League and an actual World Cup, despite looking like someone who probably hands his barbers a photo of Severus Snape. But lads, a Premier League club choosing to shop at Atalanta, it's a bit like expecting to buy ice cream in the middle of the sea. Yeah, I'm more likely gonna have to drink the piss of a fish that looks like Finding Nemo. It's not just goal scorers either. Who are the true superstars that Atalanta have directly given to the Premier League? Yes, Christian Romero is a tough, no-nonsense centre-back at Spurs, but he was still part of a spineless bunch of failures who just finished 8th. Remo Freuler at Nottingham Forest has been a big lump of meh. Amad Diallo is a promising Man United buy, yes, and he did well on loan at Sunderland, but I think we all know that Alejandro Garnacho, despite having a chest tattoo that makes him look like he spits at old grannies on the bus, I think we all know he's going to limit Diallo's growth. I mean, Timothy Castagne was a solid Leicester buy, but again, he was part of an embarrassing relegation from the Premier League, as was Martin de Roon when he joined Middlesbrough 7 years ago. I won't even talk about Leicester City by Johan Benelloon for £8 million back in 2015. I mean, that guy was there when they won the league, but was clearly about as memorable as any episode of Home and Away. When he went to Jamie Vardy's house for the title party, his teammates probably just thought he was the pizza delivery guy. But lads, it has been a while since we've had a golden age of Scandinavian strikers. I think 2004 to 2006 was the last truly brilliant age, because you had a young Zlatan Ibrahimovic ripping it up at Juventus, Henrik Larsson was winning Barcelona the Champions League, John Dale Thompson was a 15-goal-a-season striker and playing in multiple Champions League finals with AC Milan, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was a Manchester United hero who'd also won the Champions League. Oh yeah, and Eidur Johnson was winning multiple Premier League titles with Chelsea and getting to play with Ronaldinho at Barcelona. I'm not sure whether the Scandinavians were just drinking Viking juice back in the mid-2000s. I'm not sure whether their running water is just being replaced with Thor's piss, but they were all world greats for utter monster clubs. Then the talent pool dried up for a while. I mean, Kreiswolf, it was only a few years ago that poor old Swedish fans were having to convince themselves to get Bolton shirts with Elmander on the back. But now, Alexander Isak, Erling Haaland, is Rasmus Hojland the next superstar? I'm gonna say this. He's the Danish Martial! Anyway, that's what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think Hojland is gonna do? Let me know. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give a like, share, subscribe, and as always, I'll talk to you in a while.